Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are the Talkin Kop this evening. I'm Ashley. I'm here with Kev, and I'm here with Chris. And we are back after a little bit of a break for internationals. And speaking of internationals, we all just kind of finished watching some of those games. So let's just talk a little bit about the excitement that we just witnessed for Scotland and for Robertson, Kev. What were your initial reactions to that game before we kind of get into all of our transfer madness?
Yeah, I started off the night watching Wales, and that game got to 2-1. I thought you were saying the Scotland game, the McTominay goal, and everything like that. So I thought, okay, I'll flick it over and I watched that. I have first half. I've never seen a side battered, winning 1-0 like that. They were absolutely battered for the majority of that game. And decisions change games. Penalty, one definitely that would end up on your show.
Yep.
Contentious penalty given for a foul by Robertson. They levelled it. Denmark going through 1-1. Then a 9.6 dive from John McGinn.
It was a nudge at best.
It was a dive and a half. He gets your man Christensen, I think it is, gets him a second yellow. It's down to 10.
So harsh.
Yeah. So I mean, ridiculously hard. But listen, it doesn't matter. All credit to Scotland. Chris was reminding me it's the first time they've qualified as group winners since the '82 World Cup. It's the first time they've been to a World Cup since France '98. So with a 48-team expanded World Cup, fingers crossed for the sake of Ben Doak and Andy Robertson that they get out of their group. Please, God, Scotland, just get out of your group. It's been 100+ years. Just get out of your group, and that'll be success.
I'm all right with them not getting out of the group. It will be quite funny. It will be quite funny.
I mean, it's been 27 years since they got into a World Cup. I'm thrilled for Robertson getting to lead his country, and I mean that final goal. It's one of those ones that you dream about scoring, and very, very rarely works out scoring from the halfway line. But if you're going to end a game. End a game in style like that.
The BBC comms that goal is brilliant. You can hear the co-comms. During they sit back, you can hear talking. You can hear him just going, shoot! And as he does, he goes, oh, he's going for it! And he went, you can see him, he gets for the guy, can't even say it's gone in. I think the co-com just ran down the gantry, celebrate. He went, it's gone in! That's it, it's gone! It's like,
I mean, that stadium was bouncing.
I like stuff like that. Like, I enjoyed watching the Ireland game.
Yeah, oh my God!
The Ireland game was probably fairly similar to the Scotland game. He's probably got battered.
It was crazy, the Ireland one, because
but just got the big moments right.
The Ireland one is nuts because we had to beat Portugal, beat Hungary, and Troy Parrott to score 5 goals in 2 games against Portugal, one of the best sides in the world.
I mean, both of them are high quality opposition.
Exactly. Away in Hungary, and Troy Parrott with his studs nicks one in to go through in the dying seconds. I mean, how many late winners have we seen this season? We love a late winner.
With Wales winning, does that put Ireland in pot 2 or pot 3? Because I can't remember. There's one result that if one result went your way, it put Ireland in a slightly better.
I think we might be in pot 3. I don't know. I don't really care.
You were guaranteed pot 3, but I'm saying there was one result. I can't remember what it was for the Wales game. If it gone your way, you'd have got pot 2.
I think we're in pot 3, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, you don't care.
I don't really care. No, it's March. I mean, once March comes around, these games are going to be meaningful and they're massive. Should we do a watch along, Kev? March, anything can happen between now.
You're digging your own grave there, Chris.
Yeah, you really don't want me watching anything to do with Ireland, because I tell you, I was a nervous wreck throwing things. I was worse for that game than I was for a Liverpool game this season. I was worse for the Ireland one.
Really?
Oh God, it was pain, because the thought of doing what we did to Portugal and then messing it up against Hungary would have set us back so far. I mean, tonight, I think I turned off our under 21s game tonight. We were playing away against Andorra, and we were 3-0 down. Our under 17s, fair play to them in the World Cup. They went out to Switzerland, but it was in the knockout stages. And it's like Ireland is a bit in a funny spot at the minute with the FAI and everything like that. We need this. We really, really need this as a country. We need same with Scotland, same with Wales. It's like the FAs of these countries really need this to inject money back into the game for them in the domestic league. So look, fingers crossed it works. But delighted for Scotland tonight. Especially for the likes of Andy Robertson, who by all accounts we all got to go and see. We haven't seen it. We have to go and see his post-match interview because according to Madge earlier on, it was heartfelt tribute.
Yeah. Chris, I'm gonna read you some of the quotes from, or just one main quote from Andy Robertson, and it'll kind of lead us into our conversation about the team and why the team is where it's at. So Andy Robertson was interviewed right after winning, obviously a really happy moment for him. His quote was, "I couldn't get my mate Diogo Jota out of my head today. We spoke so much about going to the World Cup together. I know he'll be smiling over to me today. I'm so glad that it's ended up this way." And, it's one of those things that when you hear it come from the player, not only do you get kind of teary-eyed listening to it, but it's also one of those reminders that, this story of Jota and the consequences of his untimely death is not just a storyline that gets to kind of be shoved off to the side. It's not something that, once August or September rolls around, you get to turn the page and write a new story about why Liverpool is the way it is. This is a continuing storyline that continues to affect each and every one of these players in very different ways. And to hear Andy Robertson talk about that, I mean, we have people in the chat saying, it's breaking my heart. And it's important to remember that this is what they are carrying. So this show is a little bit about sort of just taking stock of where the team is. And part of that is taking into consideration these emotions. And the other part of that is taking stock with some of the new players that have come in and, really tried to integrate. So we're going to start this show touching base with how we felt back in August. So emotions were raw, but we had just closed the transfer window. Kev, I'm going to come to you first. The window shuts. We have the Guehi disappointment right at the tail end of that. We get the high of Alexander Isak. How are you feeling at that point in time? Just kind of summarize your take on the players that we brought in and any sort of holes in the squad that you felt that were still there.
Yeah, I went full fanboy at the end of the transfer window. Okay. I saw absolutely no negatives whatsoever. I didn't care that we didn't sign Mark Guehi. I thought, okay, January we'll get in. Don't worry about it. Forget it. Didn't see any downsides at all. Alexander Isak in the door. Florian Wirtz, an absolute baller in the making. Ekitike was the one I probably had questions over because hadn't seen enough of him. Frimpong, seen a lot of him. Yeah, granted, wing back, but I've seen him playing a fullback as well, so I wasn't worried about him. And Kirk is someone I've talked about for the last 18 months when I've seen him at Bournemouth. I was just flabbergasted at how good he was at getting up and down the line and his goal threat and his crossing ability. I thought, yeah, he's going to be an ideal fullback for us. So at the time, I never factored in the Diogo Jota passing. Never did, because I just felt that as soon as the players got around each other, I felt this when they started training and when the whistle blew, it focuses the mind to deal with what's in front of you, and you forget the fact that when the final whistle goes, you go back into the dressing room and you get the ups and the downs of football with the highs of last minute winners and the lows of conceding last minute losing goals. And senior players who are in the squad are going to look around and you sit there. I was sitting next to him. He'd have loved this. He'd have hated that. And it's little things, I suppose, that will get you as a human being. It's little things. I've seen it with Arne Slot with his interviews when he's asked about it. And it's really hard for any of the players because of the world that we live in. The second the playing staff or the manager utters the word Diogo Jota, it's Excuses FC. They're pilloried. It's used as a stick to beat them with. And I misjudged that situation massively. The impact that it's had, and it clearly has had. But I'm not surprised by large swathes of social media. Not so much the media, not so much the print media, or even the radio, the talk sports of this world. When they've talked about it, they've done it with the sensitivity around it. Sky Sports have done it with a sensitivity around it in the fact that they don't use it as a stick to beat the club with. But the social media side of it, and the players and the players' partners, the players' families can't get away from that aspect of it. So they're going to hear about it, whether they try to avoid it or not. It's going to get to them. And I think Gav said it in a show at the start that he didn't care how we finished or how we played. And I think he probably read the situation better than most of us did, me especially. And yeah, as much as some of the results and the performances are frustrating, I myself really have to learn how to bite my tongue and look at what try to take a step back sometimes and think about the wider context of what's really going on inside those four walls of that dressing room, because none of us really know what it's like in that environment to have someone that close to you who you probably see as much as you do your wife, that for the last 3, 4, 5 years, however long players have been around him, he's been around everything. He's been involved in everything in that club. He's had an influence. And I was only watching a video the other day of, it was a FIFA thing that he did when he was giving out copies of FIFA, and the banter and the jokes that he was having with the other players.
Yeah.
And it just came up on my timeline, and I sat there and I watched it, and I was like, yeah, that's not that long ago. And
I can't watch those yet.
It's all still really raw and these guys are feeling it. You say you can't watch it, they're feeling it every day.
Yeah.
It's got to be so hard. It really does.
Chris, I'll ask you the same question. Before I do, I'm just going to take you back, kind of talking about what Kev is talking about there. When the window's shut, I'm sure you remember the game where Mo Salah goes over to the fans and is just in tears in front of the Kop. That was right around the end of the transfer window. That was, emotions were high, and we kind of all felt this, I want to say, like a bit of a tug of war, where we were excited about new players, but we were sad about what was going on. We were uncertain. And that's just us as fans kind of looking in. What were your feelings at the end of the window? Were you really optimistic? Did you feel like there were shortcomings in some of the areas? Did you feel like, oh shit, we should have signed a 6, or we should have signed another center back? And did you feel like the team was going to bounce back right away from Jota, or were you more like Gav in terms of thinking that it was going to be a bit more of a process?
I think the debates those three had around the end of the transfer window. I remember because I missed the close transfer because I was ill. I was slightly frustrated, which doesn't matter when you spend that money, because I had said to you guys at the time, I know me and Kev had difference of opinion on it, which was you needed a centre back, and I was a bit pissed off we didn't get a centre back, because I was a bit like, I didn't know who Leone was, so I don't know if he was any good. And I said, I don't know when Gomez will stay fit. So I was slightly concerned with that. And I felt we were a winger light. Because I always kept thinking, I think Neil Atkinson had said it in the show, and I kept thinking about it. Said the strength of Liverpool last year was we had 5 first-team attackers plus Chiesa. And now we were like, we've got 4 first-team attackers plus Chiesa plus a kid. And that felt like, look, if they all hit the ground running, then cool. And I think the others, we all voiced this. It's not even hindsight. We all voiced this, saying, bringing that many new players in, you've got to hope we hit the ground running, because you don't often see a team hit the ground running with that many new signings. I think we said the Mourinho team of 04-05 was probably the last one I could think of where there was a massive influx of players and it really hit the ground running. I probably expected on the pitch to be a bit better than it was. We did all highlight that the opening 11 games was tough. And I thought if you're within 5-6 points, within 5 of whoever's top, that'd be grand. Which after 5 games looked like it was going to be. We're a bit further behind than I would have liked us to be. Yeah, I'd probably be like Kev. I thought the Jota situation would impact us. I didn't think it'd impact us. It's probably impacted us more than we all realised. I think the first signs we got of it was that Bournemouth game. And I think the first flashpoint of it was, I think we were all in the chat together, was I think Mo Salah got roughed up in the corner. At a corner, like he always does. And he reacted. He pushed the fella over and and had a go at him. And we all went, I've never seen Mo react, ever. He just laughs it off and walks away. And like you've seen little things with Virgil biting at things that they don't normally bite at. And you thought, is that the pressure of being champions? But then you go, I think when you saw the state of Salah at the end, you went, yeah, that makes it more real. And listen, look, social media is what social media is. There's good elements of social media. I think we all, me and Kev, sort of met through social media before we did this. But there's loads of insensitive dickheads who just want to shout shite that doesn't make sense, Or if he's still upset with Jota, then just don't pick him. We can't not pick the whole fucking squad. And also, grief affects people in different ways. So if you say to like Mo Salah, don't pick him, leave him at home, that's not going to make him better. He's not going to then go home and within a week go, I'm over it now. It's a process, and it'll be little things. It's like we talked about Robbo tonight. Him and Jota were, by all accounts, really close. I mean, I think his nickname was Muck Jota because he said he was the most Scottish foreigner.
Yeah, and Kelleher as well.
Yeah. So they were like, that these sort of things that remind us. So there'll be certain situations that remind them. Slot said it in his first game when we were 2-2. Said, I turned around looking to bring Diogo Jota on, and he's not there.
Yeah.
So I had to throw somebody else on, and you're going like, yeah, because it's still natural. And I think the plan probably wasn't to bring in 2 strikers. I think the plan was to keep Jota and bring in 1, and then plan for a second one there. So I think that sort of has done it. The club won't talk about it because they know they'll get bashed from here, pillar to post. But I think in the tough times, it's hard not to. So I had some mild concerns with those sort of situations. I still expected Liverpool. I was still believing Liverpool would retain the title because I still felt, we've lost strength, we've lost players, but actually, the spine's still there, and we're still, good players bringing it. This is not like last time we did a big overhaul like under Kenny Dalglish, where he brought in lots of run-of-the-mill players, Stuart Downey, people like that. Gambles. You're like, he's a good player if he stays fit. He's good if it. Most of them, you're going like, this is all proven. This is all proven quality. So it's just going to take a little bit of time to settle in. We probably expect the manager to adapt to this settling a bit quicker than he has. But again, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know how people are reacting behind the scenes, and what they're trying to nurture. So we'll sort of have to see how it goes. Look, I think as we've all seen, it doesn't feel it at the time, especially when Liverpool's lost 5 of their opening 11. But in nearly all of those games, bar City, I think City's the only one you can say bar City, they're literally a coin flip in those games from getting draws. And if they got 3 or 4 draws in those games, we're probably all sat there going, do you know what? We're 4 or 5 points off top. That's all right. I think we probably would have been all right with that. I think everyone's trying to process how things are going. So look, there are gaps in the squad. I didn't expect every gap to get filled in one summer. I sort of expect Liverpool to go again in January, and I expect them to probably go not as big as this summer, but fairly big this summer. And I think I kind of feel if you're going to do a bit of a rebuild and a restart, it kind of happens over two summers, and then I think then you'll go back to the summers which annoy a certain element of our fan base, which will just be the odd 1 or 2. But as Ian Graham pointed out in his book, that's kind of what you want. You want to only do 1 or 2 a summer. That's generally when things are ticking over. They just do a little bit of a hard reset of it. Some of it was forced, and some of it was, unexpected. One of the guys who's forced himself to go. I think it's by the looks of backfiring massively.
Not just one.
There were a few that wanted to go, and we should probably touch on those players as well. We're sort of just doing a general I don't know what the right word is. Just
revisionism.
Sure. Well, let's just call it a review. We're just kind of looking back on where we started and where we are now. Now that we have the power of hindsight, and some of the players that we talk about wanting to leave. There's a lot of people that are quite upset about Diaz leaving. There are a lot of people that are, all up in arms saying that we should have never sold Kwanzaa. Not so many people talking about maybe a Darwin. Not so many people talking about maybe a Simicast. But there were a lot of players that left. There were a lot of young players that left as well. We had Doak that left. We had Elliott that left. We had Morton that left, who is actually doing amazingly well. He's absolutely flying in France. So let's just talk through that as well, and touch base on, were any of those players ones that you think, like, God, we made an awful mistake? And I think we've talked about this on shows before, so I don't want to beat it to death because we do want to get to the portion of the show where we start to get a little bit of optimism going forward. But Kev, is there anyone there? I completely omitted Trent there because he decided on his own to walk out the door, but he is included as well.
He decided 2 years ago he was leaving.
Yeah. So, is there anyone else there, Kev, that you felt like, wow, big mistake?
It's not a mistake, but it's not a surprise that Luis Diaz is doing what he's doing at Bayern Munich. Luis Diaz is phenomenal. He's a brilliant player and he's rejuvenated at Bayern. He's doing unbelievable things, and fair play to him. But he has to go twice. He wanted to go to City, and he made it clear he wanted to go to Bayern this summer. Club facilitated that. That's fine. Look, all the best. Thanks for the years that you gave us. You've won what you've won, and delighted for it. Harvey Elliott's the one I look at and I think, yeah, that's a fucking mistake. They didn't want him. Unai Emery didn't want him, and it's clear as day Unai Emery didn't want him. He's going to be frozen out of Villa. He's going to need a move from Villa, some way, shape, or form, and I don't know how it's going to happen. But Villa, I just don't see Villa playing him to make that deal mandatory. I cannot see him staying at Villa this season. I'd be shocked with the way he's been treated already.
He can't be loaned out either because he's cup tied to both clubs. Yeah,
I think that Liverpool will look to do right by the player. I think they'll look to do a deal, some way, shape, or form, to arrange a deal with Villa to get him somewhere where he needs to develop, where he needs to be, because this move has been a disaster for the player. And I think Liverpool, hopefully, I want to see Liverpool try to actively engineer something somehow to do right by this player, because I think it bodes well for us as a club down the line if we want to attract young players, that we do want to see these players succeed when they leave. We were only talking about it earlier on, the fact that Harry Wilson is at Fulham now. He's been at Fulham for a long time, but captain Wales tonight, and I'm delighted for players when they leave the club and they do well. It's important for our youth development that this happens. The other ones, Kwanzaa needed to go.
And I think the way that's structured is actually in our favor.
Yeah, it is. I think he needed to go. He needs to go and play. He needs to develop. He's not going to develop at Liverpool. Even if he comes in and play if he stayed and you pop him in instead of Konate, Slot would have rotated him. He's at Leverkusen. He's playing every game. And he needs that. And at this point in his career, he needs to be playing week in, week out. And hopefully, you're right, it'll benefit us down the line. Everyone else, I think, they were the right deals at the right time for good money. And, it was a reset that was needed. Costa's going on loan. I think he's probably started less than 3 or 4 games. It just goes to show where he is. And I watched him for Greece the other night, and Ben Doak gave him an awful time. Ben Doak gave him an awful time. He's the one.
I hope that Ben Doak didn't get too seriously injured tonight, because he went off on a stretcher. It looked very bad.
That looks like a ripped hamstring.
He's the one that I think could go to the World Cup next. He could go to the World Cup next summer and potentially have a Norman Whiteside World Cup, a Michael Owen World Cup, where he's a breakout star. He's got such raw pace and dribbling ability, and the confidence that he's going to take when he recover, he'll recover in around probably February, March. Fingers crossed.
I mean, that's why you hope it's not a full hamstring
Yeah.
tear, because like he is a pace merchant.
He is, yeah. And I just really hope for the best for him because, again, he's another one. I'd love to see good things happen for him. You know, he just seems like such an honest player. And, you know, he's had a good start to the season. He's done okay. You know, but for Scotland, he's like Scott McTominay for Scotland. He flicks a switch. Even when he was at Manchester United, you flick a switch and tell him to put on a blue shirt and play for Scotland. He's a different beast. Ben Doak for Scotland, different animal. Yeah, so I don't know. I think in general, our outs were either ones that needed to happen, wanted to happen, or we wanted them to go as well. You know, it's all well and good spending all of this money. You have to recoup money as well. Football is a business. So I think that's going to continue. We're going to still look to sell players when we look to evolve this squad. But yeah, no, I'm quite happy with the outs that we've done. I don't think I'd have changed anything. As much as people will miss Luis Diaz, me included, you don't get to ask to leave twice and then stay. It just doesn't work. You know, you have to facilitate a player when you ask to leave, especially when you're receiving a fee like we did for him, irrespective of what he's doing at Bayern now.
I think,
and you simply can't carry players like Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Luis Diaz, Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak, all on massive wages.
No, you can't.
At some point, you have to kind of pick and choose. And obviously, at some point, there was a choice, Chris, that Diaz was going to be sold for the money, and we were going to allocate some of those funds to a Florian Wirtz or an Alexander Isak. Just quickly, is there anyone that was sold that you're having major regrets over in terms of, I mean, obviously, you know, do we miss Diaz's output? Yes. But is there anyone that you kind of look at and you're like, that was a mistake?
I don't think selling any of them was a mistake.
Okay.
I would say we probably could have engineered the ins a bit better. Like I've said, I felt we were a winger light with Diaz going. Now, I'm not saying we had to buy a like-for-like Diaz. You know, I'd have been fine if it was a young, exciting winger like, was it Fofana? You know, they wanted to develop, or someone of that ilk.
He's kind of just faded into oblivion.
He's not done very well, but, you know, someone of that ilk. They said, like, actually, we're going to get this lad in who's more experienced than Rio. There you go. We'll come in as a fifth choice, but, you know, will develop overseas and may become second, third choice. You know, that's fine. I think at the moment, it's quite clear with the manager, Chiesa and Rio are just going to be last 20-minute players. That's how he sees them. Rio makes sense because he's a kid. Chiesa, I think it's a physicality thing where they've just decided to get the best out of him where he makes an impact on the pitch. We can only use him for last half hours. And to be fair, when he's come for last 20 half hours, he looks really good against tired legs. So that tactic works. I was slightly annoyed we didn't get a centre back in when we let Kwanzaa go. I think it was right to let Kwanzaa go. I agree with Kev. I think he needed minutes. Young players, it's hard to learn on the job as a Liverpool player, especially when we're a side that with the expectation of being in a title race and pushing for European trophies. So that's why I think the Gahey was a bit baffling because you kind of thought it's almost like felt like we'd done a deal with Palace to we'll let you keep him to make sure you get in the Europa Conference and then the deal will get done.
Yeah,
and they got stung.
I think there was a gentleman's agreement there.
And they got stung last minute. Which if you leave it last minute, it can happen. 9 times out of 10, you're fine. But unfortunately, it didn't go for you.
I mean, we have a pretty good relationship with Palace. This is the first time I can remember recently that we've gotten stung in this way, and I don't think it was Palace per se. I think it was Glasner that really dictated that. I don't know. I mean, can you remember another Palace deal that really fell through, or another?
It's pretty rare.
As far as I know, we have pretty good relationship with them.
I mean, for Kear's the only one I've known where we've let it fall through this late in a deal, where it's like the lad's done half his medical and literally started doing the media work. So that's where it's a bit frustrating. Outside of that, I mean, people talk about would we have liked the 6? possibly. My gut feeling is, I think the plan was always for Liverpool to look for another defensive midfielder summer 26, because I think you can't do everything all in one summer, and I just wonder if they went, we'll go again with the same midfield, with the usual three. Jones, Endo can do bits, and then we go the following summer. Then we look to go big on someone. Hope Kevin and I are hoping it's an Adam Wharton type, some of that ilk, because you're thinking, and they're probably thinking, say they did want Adam Wharton, there's no way Palace are going to sell all their players in one summer. They're not. They accept they're going to lose them, but they've got to lose it on their terms. So as much as everyone wants a 6, I never expected one to come in this summer. It'd have been nice, but I never expected one. I kind of thought that was always a summer 26 job. So yeah, so
no major regrets.
No, I didn't really regret it. Is if we got Guehi over the line, I think that would have put a bit of pressure on Konate, and actually we might have been able to take Konate out for a couple of weeks because he's got a centre back that he trusts, and I still felt we're a bit of a winger light. I still think we're a winger light. So
let's take that nice transition that you're providing me there with the winger, and let's talk about how you feel now, possibly with the knowledge. Kev, I'll come to you first. With the knowledge that someone like an Antoine Semenyo has a £65 million release clause in January.
Yeah.
Does that make more sense to you to decide back in August, you know what, we'll stick with Rio for a little bit. We can make do. We will plug some holes. We have a plan. Does that make sense to you? And does he, as a player, feel like someone that can fix some of the holes that are kind of glaring at the moment? Do you think that maybe he provides a little bit more pressure from the front? Maybe he provides a little bit more dribbling. Maybe he provides a little bit more direct action. What do you think he could bring? And do you think that the club knew about that release clause going into this first half of the season?
100% they knew.
Okay.
100% they knew, because
came from that club, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, but we're not the only ones who would have known that. I mean, and you're seeing it more and more now with players who are signing long, extensions, especially this time of year. A lot of players that you're saying, "Oh, I didn't see that one coming." Yeah, they're signing an extension to make sure that there's a release clause in there, because they don't want to be in that Mark Guehi situation again. These players want to advance their career. On the case of Anton Semenyo, cash, check, or credit card. How do you want me to pay? Do you want installments? Do you want it all up front? I don't care.
Keeping in mind he is homegrown, which is something that we need.
The beauty of the Anton Semenyo deal is my household is going to be delighted with life. Bristol City are going to get 10 million for him because they brought him through. They sold him to Bournemouth for £10 million with a 20% sell-on clause. And hopefully Liverpool sign him for the 65 million. I know there's a rumor going around that the fee drops in the summer, but in the summer, I think he's one I don't want to be in the Guehi situation. I didn't like the way he was handled in the end. I understand the reasons for it, but we were too nice in that deal. And Anton Semenyo is probably one player that has impressed me more than any forward in a long, long time, because of his ability to finish left foot, right foot, play left wing, right wing, through the middle. He's quick, he's strong. And there was an interview, and it's on YouTube. There's an interview he did, I think it was on a Monday Night Football, with Carragher and with Thierry Henry. And he was talking to Thierry Henry about finishing and what he's been working on and what his goals are and what he wants to do with his career. And Henry was sat there purring. After the interview finished, Henry was just waxing lyrical about him, because he has got all the tools to be a wide forward, a wide striker, and he can do it off either foot. I don't know if he's right-footed or left-footed. He can do it all. 65 million is definitely what he's worth. And I think it's a good deal for Bournemouth. It's a good deal for us. I think it's an upgrade on Chiesa, and I think it's future planning for Mo. So I cannot see a downside to it. But like most of us, most of everyone in the chat and everyone on air, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Just because you're looking at signing Anton Semenyo doesn't mean you're ignoring the glaring hole that not doing Mark He left in the squad. So, and the unfortunate nature of the injury to Leone.
Yeah.
So getting
we'll get to center backs in a moment.
Yeah,
I promise.
for me, getting that one over the line is vital, and getting it over the line early. Get it over the line, done and dusted. I want this signing done, just like the Virgil van Dijk signing done. I want to wake up 2nd of January, 3rd of January with, when the window opens, and by the way, Liverpool have got their man.
I mean, we all love a Christmas tree announcement. We've seen it done before. Yeah. We've seen it with Gakpo. We've seen it with Virgil. Wouldn't mind it with a Semenyo.
He could also have the same impact when we signed Diaz. We signed Diaz in January where we were in it. We were still a race for four trophies then, but we were looking a little flat. Mm-hmm. Sadio was struggling playing wide left. We put Diaz wide left and was able to put Sadio Mane through the middle, and Sadio Mane looked reborn. Something like that could rejuvenate other players. I think if you had him, I think you'd see a bit more of rejuvenated Mo Salah, because there's only so many people you can double up on. And the one thing we don't really have too much on in the attack is raw pace, with the exception of probably Ekitike. And I can't really count Rio because he's a kid and he's not going to play very often. He's a little bit of a break glass option at the moment, which is fine. He's 17. He shouldn't be a regular yet. So it just feels like I don't get this social media mentality, which is like, we can't see goals, but we're going to sign another winger. Tell me how it makes sense. The answer is we need both. We do need defense.
We need both, but we also need to defend from the front. And I think that's something that Semenyo offers you in a way that some of our other forward players don't, especially someone like an Isak. And Mo Salah, to call a spade. Neither of them are pressing from the front right now. Mo Salah has been allowed to kind of hang out on the right wing and contribute when he contributes. And that makes a lot of sense when he's scoring goals. But this year, that's not happening. And so if you combine a Mo Salah and an Isak, for example, up front, you're getting no pressure. And that's not Gakpo's natural thing. That was Diaz's thing. That was Jota's thing. Semenyo could help there, because one of the first line of defense that, we always hear Slot talk about is defending from the front, getting that press right. And that press has not been right at all. Like the wins that we've gotten from presses in that final third have been so incredibly low this year. And that's something that really excites me about Semenyo. For me, I think it's, for the fact that he's homegrown, the fact he's not going away to the African Cup of Nations this year because his country sadly didn't qualify, the fact that you could bed him in for 6 months, say if, conversation that might need to be had at some point, Mo Salah leaves this summer. You make this a season of transition, sure, but you make sure that next season is not a season of transition as well. So you really bed these players in as you can. Kev, you mentioned that although Semenyo is important, it's more important to address the giant gaping hole at the back. And I want to touch on two things here. I want to touch on the comments from Konate in this international break on his contract and sort of the elephant in the room there. So for those of you that don't know what the comments were, it was in short, and I'm, this is not word for word, but basically Konate was saying, I've heard some things in the media. I don't know where those are coming from. My representatives are still talking to Liverpool. Hopefully we will have something to announce soon. That was it. That doesn't bode super well for me. That doesn't scream confidence, Kev. How are you feeling about Konate? And then let's talk about the hole that is now there that unfortunately Leone has left with his ACL injury.
Yeah, that one with Leone was really unfortunate because
he looked so good.
He did. We only have the taster of the Southampton game, all right? And, it was a League Cup against Southampton. So put that into context as well. He did what he needed to do in that game, and he did it well. we weren't buying him for this season, but the hope was that he would probably play the domestic games, the domestic cup games, and he would evolve this season. We might start to see him next season more. But he was always the fifth. The idea was he was going to be the fifth centre back. So you had Virgil, Kanate, Gomez, ideally Guehi, and Leone to bed in. But not getting Guehi over the line put a lot of pressure on Virgil and Kanate to be as consistent as they usually have been. And neither of them have. Neither of them have had a season that you'd hang your hat on. I think both of them have looked frail at times. Kanate more so because Kanate looks at the ball at his feet and it looks like a grenade. He just doesn't like it. And I've never seen a player who has that inner Joel Matip to take the ball forward and commit players go so into himself. And he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing when he's passing the ball. And it's scary. And the worst thing for Kanate is the more he thinks about it, the worse he gets. And it's like he's frustrating because at the same time, the argument is he'll go to Madrid. No, he fucking won't. Madrid aren't going to sign him. Xabi Alonso wants footballing centre-backs who can play football, who are comfortable with the ball at their feet, who can pass the ball and who can distribute. He doesn't have that in his locker. He just can't do it. He's not going to Madrid. So the other option is, do we extend his contract? I mean, look, yeah, there's a contract. If you want to stay, sign that. If you don't want to stay, fine. Go for nothing. That's your choice. He's not irreplaceable. There's an Ibrahim Kanate out there for sale for £50 million. All right, and he's not a Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk is up there, head and shoulders above everyone else in the world as a centre back, even on his worst season. He's still better than everyone else by a distance. So replacing him, the absolute nightmare. Replacing Ibrahim Kanate is not a nightmare. It's if he goes, he's replaceable. I want him to stay. If he wants to stay, that's fine. Get his head right, but give him competition to force him to get better. But if you're going to give him a contract for 4 or 5 years, you have to believe that he's going to improve. Because if you don't think he's going to improve, you don't give him a contract. You take what you've had from him for the last 4 or 5 years, for the fee we paid for him, and you say thank you very much for your service. Good luck in the rest of your career. If the club don't think he's going to improve, because he fucking needs to. So if the club don't think he's going to improve, you don't offer him a deal. All right, because as someone said, would PSG want him? Fuck no. Have you seen PSG centre backs? Not a chance. Would he go to Bayern? Yeah,
I think he could.
I think he could go to Bayern and play. He knows the Bundesliga. But in fairness, I don't see him going. I don't see many high.
I don't know if the Real Madrid links are as strong as they were in the summer, though. Especially looking at his recent performances, and all of this is tinged. Real Talk puts a really good point in there, kind of going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this show. Kanate was Jota's neighbor. They lived right next to each other. They were very close. Again, just important to remember that, by all accounts, there is a contract on the table. So it sounds like Liverpool do believe in him and do believe he will bounce back. But I think this is a final offer. Yeah. I think this is either a take it or you leave it. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think our hands are tied in terms of selling him in January just because we aren't inundated with center backs right now.
Yeah, I don't
I don't think that's a possibility. But we could bench him. We could bring someone in and bench him.
Well, I think if you're going to bring one in, I think the choices are, and Chris, you know as well, it's one of two. Because I don't think you're getting Mark Guehi in January for 10 million, 15 million. I think you're going to have to stump up good money for him. to get him 6
I
months.
don't know how much more you'd have to stump up though, because I mean he's literally on a free in 6 months.
Exactly. So
we were going to play, what was it, 30, 35? 35,
30,
I think.
30 with add-ons, I think. 30
Okay,
with
so
5
let's call it 35 including add-ons. You're not getting that much again in January.
No.
So Chris
and the chairman made it known
they need the money.
They need the money.
They need the money. So, beggars can't be choosers to some degree. I think 15 gets Guehi in January. And as far as I've read, it sounds like Guehi has given his word to Liverpool.
I think the thing that might go in our favour is for all the posturing that Glasner did of if you sell Guehi, I go, and which he's then denied. He's not signed a new contract since then because he's clearly angling for a move to go somewhere else. So I do wonder if Glasner's also shown his hand a little bit and almost like Parish has gone, could look at him and go, you cost me 15 million here.
I mean, FSG are not known for overpaying for players. They're actually known for holding off if a player is going to be free. So for them to even stump up 10, 15, that would be out of character for FSG.
Possibly, but they may also just look at it and going like, the season's not going quite how we planned. The centre-back we've got isn't doing well.
True, but I also, playing devil's advocate, that's happened before, and they've decided, I think the best idea is to hire a hologram who doesn't play.
No, I mean, they did bring in Kabak. He just unfortunately got injured about 5 games in, so it didn't really help us. But again, maybe because that's happened before, there is also the element once bitten, twice shy.
Perhaps.
So, and I'm in two minds about the Orns. Generally, this sort of stuff, they sort of use with Ornstein or these James Pearce, don't they? Say, bad news, Pearce, go and put something out saying there's nothing happening. And there's none of that. My only thing with the Guehi one and the Semenyo is we're in the end of November and there's already been a lot of talk about it. And I think every time there's a lot of talk about a player, Bellingham comes to mind, Trent's extension comes to mind. They very rarely happen. Liverpool's very much they keep a lot of things closed.
We didn't have anyone kind of in control of the ship when those deals were kind of happening. Like there was a lot of talk and no action.
We have
someone in control now.
Yeah, what Chris is saying there, I used to think that Liverpool was a really closed shop. They're not.
I don't think they are anymore, especially with Hughes in charge. I actually think Hughes and Ornstein are pretty chummy.
Yeah, I think we knew every single deal that were happening with Liverpool this summer a month before it happened.
More so I'd say more so than the last maybe 5 years.
Yeah,
probably since the Virgil deal. I think that this year has been the most open book Liverpool have been.
Possibly because I think also because we had so many irons and so many fires, you can't keep all that. You can't keep all that quiet. But
I just want to. Can I quickly address this? Not sure your name, never seen you before, but welcome to the chat. Will Semenyo want to come to us, given that we've had a fan racially abuse him 3 months ago? I remember that at the time, and I remember how the club dealt with that fan, and he got exactly what he deserved. But I also remember what Anton Semenyo said post-match, that it was handled properly. It was handled in the right way by Liverpool, by the stewards. And I remember him making a point to say he appreciated what the club came to him to make sure he was okay. Liverpool as a club came to him to make sure he was okay after the game and would have done the right thing by him. So I think, look, unfortunately, it's a stain in football. And I guarantee you'll go, there's 20 Premier League grounds, you go to 20 Premier League grounds and you're going to get an arsehole in every single one. So it's out there. It's not gone away. It's not as bad as it was, but it's not gone away. And I don't think just because something like that happened at Liverpool, that doesn't happen at every club up and down the country for a lot of players.
The good message it sent was, I don't think he even saw half time, that fella.
No.
He
immediately got ejected.
He's ejected, and he's apparently, I think it was a season ticket holder. The season ticket's gone, banned from the club for don't know how long. Well done. You've just ruined you basically just ruined your hobby. Because
I understand why
you'll never get back into the club.
Yeah.
I understand why someone would bring it up. I mean, the exact quote from Semenyo, just so you were aware, Following that incident, he said, and I quote, "Last night at Anfield will stay with me forever, not because of one person's words, but because of how the entire football family stood together. Everyone, to my Bournemouth teammates, supported me in that moment. The Liverpool players and the fans who showed their true character, and the Premier League officials who handled it professionally. Thank you. Football showed its best side when it mattered most." So overall, stain on everyone that one individual ruined that moment, but credit to everyone else for standing up and doing the right thing and showing what the club is really about. And I hope that that's the prevailing message. And I hope that that's what Semenyo takes out of it. By his words, it seems like that's what he takes out of it. So hopefully, regarding this message, would he want to sign for us? Hopefully he remembers the good half of the evening.
Caught up as well, because I knew the gist of it, but yeah, having the exact quote, well done.
I also think if he felt quite strongly about what happened to him at Liverpool in terms of that's put me off Liverpool for good, which would be his choice, I kind of feel Liverpool's patch would have shut down the whole Semenyo thing very quickly. As in, like, just saying, like, yeah, he may have released because Liverpool are not interested. Liverpool having no conversation about this at all. Do you know what I mean? Because they would have known. They'll have spoken to them. They'll have spoken to his representative already saying, how does he feel about the whole move to Liverpool situation? If they'd have said, absolutely fucking not, then it would have been done and you'd have seen Liverpool getting linked to somebody else already.
Yeah.
So I would kind of feel that would have been handled straight away to know, because, they may have took that. I'm sure they would have checked that first to make sure how he felt about the whole situation, because that might be a reason he wouldn't want to come.
I mean,
it's a reasonable question, and I understand why it was brought up.
Thanks for bringing it up, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't recognize your username. It's just I just didn't recognize it. Sorry.
Okay, so I don't want to move too swiftly off from that because it is an important topic, but in the interest of time, there were a few more names that were linked, and I want to make sure that we touch on those. We've touched on Mark Guehi here. We've touched on Semenyo in depth. Another name that certainly gets me excited, doesn't really necessarily scream possible for the January transfer window. Chris, I'll go to you on this one, is Bastoni. Now, Bastoni, I believe he's 26. He's at Inter. For me, he's kind of as close to Virgil van Dijk in terms of a figurehead in a defensive back line that there kind of is out there. Available. And whether or not he's available is up for debate. According to reports, he has been on Liverpool's shortlist. There's no surprise there. I think he's probably on everyone's shortlist. But they have him sort of pinned as a possible Virgil van Dijk successor. He was one of those dreamland signings that when we were making up sort of a makey-uppy starting 11 back in the summer, some of us threw in there just for fun. Is there a world where you could possibly see this happening, first of all, in January and maybe more realistically in the summer?
I don't see it in January. I can't see why Inter Milan, who are pushing for a league title and also are, probably trying to go deep in Europe, would let their best asset go. I think a deal that big, always feels like a summer job. It can't be done. Virgil was done in a January, but to be honest, that's because we fucked up the summer and we spent 6 months making good with
apologising.
Yeah, apologising, putting emails out, shooting the person who leaked it to the press, the usual stuff. All the stats and what you see at Bastoni says that feels like the right sort of move for Liverpool. It would be the same age we signed Van Dijk when we signed him. My only thing about it is an Italian footballer coming out of it.
I think that everyone kind of knows that. An Italian coming to Liverpool doesn't bode well.
Well, to us, an Italian coming to the Premier League, there aren't many that have settled in well. Look,
Calafiori has done decent.
That's what I mean. Calafiori, he's like a Zola in terms of he's quite a rarity that it's an Italian that's settled in. Chiesa's had moments for us, but you can't say.
I wouldn't say that he's settled though.
No, Vialli, did well at Chelsea, but there
So,
aren't many Italians you go
that's
through.
about it.
It's like a straw poll. You go,
Yeah.
he was okay, he's not bad, but there aren't many of them. Now listen, go back. Actually, you'll be too young first. Voronin, South Americans, Kev, used to be a thing. South Americans,
Yeah.
the Premier League never settled. The Argentinian lad who went from United to Chelsea, he was brilliant everywhere but England. He was shit. Now South America, you die for South Americans to play in England because they're brilliant. The style of football suits that way, and it just takes time. But it just seems to be weird that we just never seem to have Italians that do it. Yeah, Jorginho,
he's a decent one. I mean, Leone actually, on one game looked fine.
One game, so
which we can't really judge him on. I'm being
facetious,
but
at least Leone we got him young, so we can hopefully talk about. But that's my only sort of worry is, would he adapt?
Kev, before I jump over to you, I'm going to caveat this with,
because Kev's going to say no.
No, that's not what I'm going to say. Richard Hughes is known for his contacts in Italy. That is his strength. You see players like, I believe Dean Huijsen was over in Italy and then he brought him over.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He's known for his contacts with agents there. He's known for sort of working that league probably better than any other sporting director in England at the moment. So if someone was going to have the power to bring someone like a Bastoni over into this league, I would say it would probably be Richard Hughes.
Yeah.
How do you feel about him? Do you think that there's any logic in this whatsoever, January, summer, or not at all?
I think he's a really good centre-back. I honestly do. I think he's a really, really good centre-back. But I firmly believe this. If you're looking to replace Virgil in the next 2 years, which we're going to have to, you really need someone with Premier League experience. It is just different.
Is there anyone that screams out to you, this is the guy in the Premier League?
Van de Ven.
Okay.
Mickey Van de Ven.
You think that his hamstrings are not made out of Swiss cheese?
I think that he's young. He's had hamstring issues. But under Thomas Frank, it looks like the Postecoglou illness has passed. And that experiment,
that should be a t-shirt.
That experiment has truly failed. But no, look, no matter which way you do this, there isn't a plug and play replacement for Virgil van Dijk.
Unless it's Guehi. And I don't necessarily believe that, but unless the club believe that it's Guehi.
Yeah.
I think to replace Van Dijk, you actually have to buy a partnership.
Yeah.
I do too. I don't think you replace him with one person. And I think it would be unfair on any singular player to put that mantle on them or him.
Actually, we've talked about this. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the way we're building this squad out, that we potentially end up in 2 years' time looking at having the flexibility within our squad to play a back three.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to touch on this before we go, so thank you for the segue. You guys have both been.
We didn't plan this, by the way.
No,
but
you guys have been great with the segues.
We have talked about this on and off now for a few weeks.
Also, Ash is in charge and read me and Kev the right acts of behave. So we're being
no. We're vibing. It's good. Kev and I have had this ongoing discussion for a little while, and since we're talking about kind of looking at everything in hindsight, I kind of wanted to close the show talking about the direction of travel sort of going forward, and maybe what we're going to do stylistically. So we've talked about some of the players. We've talked about the summer window. We've talked about the January window. And one of the sort of giant missing pieces here is, what are we going to do with all these players? And I have a theory that I have thrown out to Kev. I have no idea what we're talking about now.
Madge made a great point, and it does lead into what you're talking about.
Could Virgil have a few more years in him? Possibly. And I think part of that is how you manage him. Can you take a little bit of workload off of him? And so the conversation that Kev and I have had in the past is, if you look at our summer plan as a whole, and if you look at some of the business that we're maybe looking to do in January, can you make the argument that there was a plan that was set in place pre-Jota by Slot and Co., and that Slot perhaps thought, I'm going to have the entire summer here without a Euros, without a World Cup, to work with our new players. I'm going to be able to gel all of these new players in place, and we're going to be able to set a whole new system in place. Perhaps a system where there's 3 at the back. Something that's flexible, that maybe looks like 4 at the back, then shifts to 3 at the back, where you have someone dropping in. Maybe it's Gravenberch that drops into a back 3. Maybe it's a Guehi that's playing, sort of adjacent, that drops back into a back 3. Was that the plan all along that then got derailed by Jota's death, where you no longer had a preseason? You no longer had senior players able to take on board new information. You had players that were so inundated with grief that they couldn't adopt any new kind of stylistic things, even though Slot has tried. And in the end, he ended up going back to what he knew. And so now you have 7, 8 new signings that are all kind of round pegs in square holes, or square pegs in round holes is what I'm trying to say. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Do we see a shift in that system now? Or do we feel like this last couple of weeks with the Villa result and the Real Madrid result, do you think that Slot is like, I don't have time on the pitch to do this. I'm going to stick with old Liverpool Slot 1.0. We can't do 2.0 right now.
I think if we got Guehi, it would give the option of, it would look on the system like we're playing a centre-back at full-back, like Arsenal do. But I think it would be, one side you'd have Frimpong, Guehi would be left-back. Basically, Frimpong would be told, fuck off like a winger. Salah comes inside, and it comes a back 3 when we're on the ball. And then we just fall back when we're defended. And vice versa, you could say, put a more defensive-minded full-back, Robbo, left-back. Or if you want to start Kirkes, you put a more defensive-minded full-back, Gomez, at right-back. So you can kind of do that. Arsenal do it really well because Timber is allowed to go a lot more because he's probably more attacking than Calafiori. But, whenever you see Arsenal, both full-backs don't go. One goes, one then becomes the back 3. So they always keep that security. I think Liverpool haven't quite done that. I think all the other plan was maybe Gravenberch drop in the middle off the ball to make it a back 3. But we just haven't quite got the balance right in terms of, now some of that is players being available, new players, and like you said, due to the the tragedy of losing Jota, there was an element of maybe thinking he couldn't try that he wants to try, and he's just gone back to what he knows.
I mean, Hotline makes a point. He says that the only new signing that doesn't look like a plug and play for the old system is Wirtz. I disagree completely with that. And no offense, Hotline, I know we have a lot of great discourse in the chat, but I look at Frimpong, I look at Kirkes, I look at Wirtz, I look at Ekitike, and I look at Isak, and I say, none of them actually work for the old system that we were playing. Ideally, there are other players for the amount of money that we spent on those players. There are much more plug and play options that would have been available. Much more. There are more kind of defensively minded fullbacks that we could have gotten that, would have gone up and down the wings, like a Porro could have done that. We could have gotten a center forward that was more Bobby Firmino-esque and like an Alvarez for the same money as an Isak. Again, I'm not saying that these guys were available per se. I'm just kind of talking hypothetically here. But for me, the players that we bought don't jive with the system that we are currently using, which is last season's system. Kev, I feel like we're on the same page. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Look, I honestly think I watched a lot of the Netherlands, the kind of back 3 system version that they play with is similar to that, where Mickey van der Ven plays on paper as a left back. He's not. He plays as a left-sided back in a back 3 with Dumfries or Frimpong, whoever plays at right back, bombing on like a lunatic. And Dumfries is fucking brilliant at it. But it's not just the Dutch do it. A lot of clubs are moving in this direction, playing more defensive-minded, at least one defensive-minded, flexible defender who can play as who's comfortable on the ball on either side, left centre back or right centre back. Slotterback is probably the one that I would look at to see what happens with him. What's the movement like with him? He's got 18 months left in his contract. It looks like he's come back well from his injury. I watched Germany the other night, and the reason why I was fixated on Germany was because of Florian Wirtz playing on the left, but not as a winger. He was a left attacking midfielder, and he was ridiculously good. He was just filthy. He was absolute filthy disgusting. Should have had an 18 label on it for some of the stuff he was doing with the football. It's just wrong. But it was like for 45 minutes he tore Slovakia apart. And I think if you look and think about a place where Virgil is your centre back, where he isn't having to do all the running, but he can marshal and run a back three. You put a Slotterbeck or a Van de Ven on one side of him, you put a Mark Guehi on the other side of him, or Ibrahima Konate. You have wing backs, stroke, left mids and right mids in Frimpong, Bradley, Kirkes, plus whoever comes in to replace Robertson on that wing, assuming Robertson doesn't extend. And then inside that, you have Semenyo, Wirtz, and then you have Isak or Ekitike as your focal point number 9. And then you have Szoboszlai and Gravenberch as your two centre midfielders who dictate play, who supplement the forwards, who don't get beyond the forwards, but who facilitate the forwards. Tell me a world where that doesn't work.
And it looks like Liverpool is moving in that direction with offering Gravenberch and Szoboszlai new deals, according to rumors. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that kind of percolates at all over the next couple of days. I think that would be really good news for us. But
I just want to sign Schlotterbeck just for the puns.
Hey, I can remember.
I'm kind of thinking
3 years
about signing
ago,
like Van der Ven and
Van Hekken.
We'd have Van Dijk, Van der Ven, and then we could have Van Hecke, and we could have all the Vans in the back.
Van, thank you, man.
That would be fun. Yeah. I don't know.
Liverpool parked the van in a 1-0 win.
Something like that. I don't know. I mean, I do think that we talk about kind of Van Dijk and handling his aging, having sort of 3 separate center backs with all complementary attributes, I guess is what I'm looking for, that could all play off of that, and then being able to kind of circulate Virgil in and out as he needs rest might actually be a really sustainable way of going forward.
Pep did something similar with City, didn't he? To keep Kompany going for 2 more years. And he wanted to not wheel him out, but he could wheel Kompany out in the crunch moments. Mm-hmm. But then when he wasn't playing, he had quality to take his place for a little bit. But then he still had the attributes around the back of the van. Very good. I like that one, real talk.
There's so many possibilities.
So what I mean. So, but that's what I mean. That City did it with Kompany. I mean, I think Jerry made points that we don't want to be Arsenal's uber conservative. There's no role model. It's not the uber conservative because City have won 4 of the last 5 leagues.
Thinking more like Palace's back 5 than but City, an Arsenal back 4.
But City always play with 3 centre backs and then a very attacking full back. I mean, City at the moment are playing with 2 midfielders at full back. They're very good midfielders, but that's what they're doing. They've got converted midfielders at full back.
It's not about the system on paper. It's about how you attack and defend within it. And I don't know how it's going to evolve. Look, we're spitballing. We don't know.
Well, we are spitballing, but I promise I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to just throw in one fact before we move on from this. Is anyone that watches the youth team, that usually gives you a couple of hints about the direction that the senior team is going in, because they want the youth team to basically be able to bed into the senior team as they get older.
They went back 3 Chesterfield, didn't they?
Yeah, this is the direction that they're going in. They're going in a way that it sets up on paper like a 4-3-3, but the whole thing just kind of morphs. And it does kind of go into a back
Ramsey
3.
Ramsey went centre mid.
He did.
It was very bizarre.
So if you're ever kind of looking, and I know it's hard to kind of look at some of the youth games. I think LFC TV has them, but they are practicing something that doesn't look like clot ball anymore, and that I think is perhaps an indication of what's to come.
Yeah, I just think, look, I look at it look at who you're being linked with, okay, and look at what their best attributes are. Mark Guehi is a brilliant left centre back. He can play in a 6, but he's a left centre back in a 3.
You
put him in an England.
Slaughterback is as well.
Slaughterback is as well. You put him in an England shirt, okay, and he can play in a back 2, and I think he's really good in a back 4. Sorry, as a left-sided centre back. He's brilliant. I mean, he really, really is top notch. Slaughterback can play that role too. He does it for his club, and he's done it for Germany. But he's flexible enough that he can do both. So I think that's probably what we're looking for. That flexibility. That some games you're going to play a back 4. Some games you want to be able to even have the ability to play a back 5. You look at how we played against Madrid and how we sat in 2 banks of 4, 1 and 1. That's fine. But you have to look at in a world without Mo Salah. For December and January, Mo Salah, if you look at any pitch map for us for the season so far, he's the highest position off the ball for anyone. He's not going to be there. So if you're led to believe that Frimpong is going to come in and be his replacement, you're not telling Frimpong to do what Salah does and stand as the highest, most advanced player in the way we play. You're not. So I think he's going to change how we play in December and January. I think you're going to see an evolution of the squad in December and January.
You might see a front 2.
You might see a front 2.
I think you probably will.
I think a front 2 works for, you could do Isak and Ekitike, but then as you subs to bring on, Gakpo and Kier could be the backup options, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it allows you to almost play a 3 midfield, the solid midfield 3 that we like, and then gives Wirtz that little bit of license to play behind 2 very good strikers.
Yeah, I don't care which way he dresses it up. It's more a case of who's going to be the most advanced player when we're off the ball, when we're sitting in, when we're defending.
I think it's going to be Isak when Mo Salah's not on the ball.
Exactly.
Or when he's not on the pitch, rather. I think it's going to be Isak.
And that makes us set up defensively different. It's going to offer more protect. That's why I go back to looking at the Frankfurt game. When you look at the Frankfurt game and you look at the position that Florian Wirtz picked up in a 4-4-1-1 as a right-sided midfielder, he attacked in anything but a right-sided midfield position. But defensively, he broke his neck and he got back into position. I don't know how this is going to evolve, but in December and January, you're going to see a different version of Liverpool to how we have seen for the last 18 months, because we don't have a player who can do what Salah does on that wing. So we're going to have to be different. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the end of the international break. The international break is over. We're coming back. We've Forest to come, and then the football just keeps on rolling, and it's going to be different.
This is a bit of pressure now for Slot, because this, on paper, ignore Europe for the moment, is a nice
run.
It's a nice 9 games to get into, which is all the home games are very winnable, and our away form's been terrible. But I think of the away games,
Leeds looks hard.
I'm not worried about Leeds.
I'm worried about any away game right now.
So am I.
Fulham and Spurs are the 2 I would have concerns over, because Fulham away's become a little bit of a bogey ground for us. And Spurs, it's which Spurs you get, because on their day under Thomas Frank, they're a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a preview show probably on Friday, I'd imagine, where we go. The game is on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we'll go into detail about lineups, thankfully, so far, we're pretty good on the injury front. It looks like we're pretty good on the morale front, except for maybe Szoboszlai and Kirkez.
They have next summer off. They're all good.
Yeah, I know that for Kev, that's a great thing.
Evil man.
But
Kev hates Liverpool players being happy.
No, but in general, we'll talk through where the players are at and kind of how we see
I think we're only missing
how we
two,
see them
aren't we?
like lining up and stuff. What did you say, Chris?
I think we're only missing 2 for this weekend, which will be Frimpong and Leone.
Yeah, I mean, it looks
Talk
like
is
maybe
everybody else.
Allison might be back, which would be good. But let's
Yeah.
not do any spoilers because we are going to do that show on Friday, and I want people to tune in for that.
Yeah, the one question I want to answer, Madge asked, did Isak play earlier today? He was on the bench for Sweden, and he never got off it.
Yeah, he did not get any minutes. We were talking about that before.
So he did get injured. That's a good start.
No, he didn't get injured, but he also traveled, and there's mixed opinions amongst this camp about whether or not that was a good thing. But let's touch on that on Friday. When we do the pregame show. Let's talk about Isak. Let's talk about what we expect from Isak kind of going forward and how we maybe see him. That would be very nice.
Goals,
that would be really, really nice.
There's no expectation we need for him. Just score goals. And make
I keep telling myself, kind of as a silver lining, I keep telling myself, if anyone in the world was offered a fit Alexander Isak for half of the season, everyone would snap their hand off. Yeah. And I'm hoping that we get a fit Alexander Isak for half of a season. So
we need him.
We do need him. We do need him. And
simple as that.
For the price that we paid, we're getting into the territory, Chris, of that forward thinking that you did on our Patreon yesterday, where Alexander Isak's 4 words are no longer very positive. They are starting to get into the very, very negative territory.
To be honest, I think on forward thinking, the 4 words for him were very non-committal because we couldn't say anything.
Okay.
But listen, if you know what forward thinking is, click the QR code there, become a Patreon. Costs a pint. Try it for a month. And Forward Thinking is one of our Patreon exclusive shows that we do where we pick a subject and describe that player or situation in 4 words or less. And then we have a bit of a talk around it. We talked about all sorts. Phil Babb smashing his bollocks on a goalpost, which, if you haven't seen it,
I enjoyed the trip down memory lane. I was listening to all of the Suarez goals, and that was nice.
Have you seen the Phil Babb one though?
I have not watched a replay since you mentioned it, but the visual that you painted was very accurate.
Oh, trust me. he hit that post like a train.
Yeah, it was not nice. But listen, Alexander Isak, we need him fit. We just get fit. The rest will come. Just get fit. Because in fairness, Hugo had a really good international break, scored a lovely goal. I'm really pleased with how he's done. Wirtz has had a really good international break. Come back and just do what you do. But Isak, get fit. Just get fit.
Gakpo looked good. Szoboszlai looked good, even though they fell out. Kirkes looked iffy, but we'll park that for a little while. But in general, I mean, if you look at sort of the SOFA scores for everyone that was on internationals, like they all did quite well. So we'll talk about that on Friday. We'll go into detail. Ekitike's goal is great. If you haven't watched it, just type that into Twitter. It's sort of like a one-man show where he goes all the way up. And Didier Deschamps' reaction to the goal is also fantastic. Also worth a watch.
On the quiet with no Mo Salah for a monsoon. Gakpo's penalties are quite good. He's a regular penalty taker for Netherlands, and he seems.
I don't think that's happening, but
I think he takes a decent pen. So, I'm saying, but if Mo's away and we get a penalty, is it Gakpo?
There's actually that would be an interesting conversation, but let's save that for another night because we've got McAllister, we've got Gakpo, we've got Wirtz, we've got Szoboszlai. There's a handful of players that are very good penalty takers. And
Virgil.
I mean, yes. If Virgil can just kind of point then fuck Azpilicueta, not Azpilicueta, but Kepa off, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I think that's probably enough for tonight. We just kind of wanted to review everything, look back in hindsight, talk a little bit about January. There were those links. We touched on Schlotterbeck, we touched on Bastoni, Semenyo, and Guehi. If there's anyone that we missed, if you guys could throw it in the chat, it helps the channel out, just kind of keeping the engagement up. It also just helps us to know if we're missing anything when we're doing all of our research and stuff. And mostly that's me doing research. So I want to make sure that I don't miss anything because these guys pretty much don't miss a trick. I'm usually the one that has to make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, I think that's enough for tonight. Anything else before we go, Kev?
Nah, all good.
Chris, anything else before we go?
No, all good.
All right. Well, that's us for tonight. I thank you all so much for coming and chatting with us. You guys make the show. Our Patreon link is right there in the description. It's also just a QR code away. And there's some fun shows on there. But we'll be back on YouTube probably on Friday. And we'll be back with you on Saturday for our usual reaction show and everything like that. But for now, thank you all so much. And we will see you very, very soon. Kev, can you take us out?